welcome everyone to this joint webinar by Cisco and the Boston Consulting Group on remote work best practices in this really unprecedented time. We thank you for spending time with us today. Now, today we're going to talk about how remote work is becoming the new normal and how employers and managers can ensure that their employees are safe, secure, and productive and have an enterprise-like experience working remotely. My name is Kartika Prihadi. I lead the enterprise networking business for Cisco Systems in APJC, Asia Pacific, Japan, and Greater China. And I'm very lucky to be joined by Vaishali Rastogi and Prasanna Santhanam. Now, Vaishali is a senior partner in BCG and is a leader in the global technology, media, and telecoms practice. And Prasanna is also a partner in the TMT practice in BCG Singapore. Let me first kick off the discussion with the first question to the BCG team. So, Vaishali, what does BCG see in terms of changes of working models in your clients over the past few months due to the COVID-19 situation?
Thanks, Kartika. Almost overnight, the digital future has come into sharp focus for every organization. Hardware for homes, setup of networks, remote and secure availability of corporate IT assets were needed rapidly. And concepts that just seem to be really nice perks, like work from anywhere, rapidly have become necessities. And I personally don't believe that we're going to ever go back to the old norm again. So what have we seen at organizations over the last 8 to 10 weeks? At the start, the focus was on reaction, really setting up rapid response teams, ensuring employees are protected, de-risking supply chains, and enabling basic work from home capability for all employees, be it on the IT infrastructure side like laptops and dongles, be it basic security like VPN and video conferencing and collaboration software. Over time, though, the focus has moved in preparing for the recovery, which means things like scenario planning or rethinking safe at work environments as different geographies open up. And not to forget, in terms of technical needs, evolving the organization's 3 Ps, which is the people, the policies, and the processes, to really support this distributed way of working way beyond the crisis. And last, I would say some firms have begun to really see how they will use this crisis to reimagine their future, be it in harnessing digital or technology to change their operating models or to capture new pockets of growth for their business. Basically, how companies can create advantage in adversity. Internally, they're also thinking of the next level of technology enhancements for employees to improve productivity, security, and experience. So things like facial recognition, biometrics, AI in processes such as compliance, and much more. So those were just a few thoughts, and maybe giving it back to you, Kartika. What has Cisco experienced so far due to the COVID-19 situation?
So Vaishali, Cisco itself shifted very quickly to a fully remote working model at the start of the pandemic. We have 75,000 plus employees across the globe. And literally overnight, or a matter of hours really, we shifted to a permanent work from home, right, situation. And luckily for us though, remote working has always been part of our culture in Cisco. And so we have, as you mentioned, we have the technology, we have the policies, and we have the processes or operations already in place. But moving 75,000 employees actually is not an easy thing, as you probably, your clients tell you, and it really required us to shift to add some more capacity to our IT resources, right? So for example, including our WebEx collaboration software and security, AnyConnect, and Duo, authentication platforms. So you had to really quickly turn on that capacity. But we also did other things, like we implemented new meeting policies to start meetings 5 to 10 minutes, after or before the hour to better scale our collaboration platform so everybody doesn't start at the same time, and really to help our employees maintain their well-being during the lockdown. HR also organized a series of virtual workshops or exercises, mental health workshops, and so forth. Now, what is unique also, what we did was our CEO Chuck Robbins instituted a weekly check-in session with the leadership team. So leveraging our panel of doctors, other experts, and we use our own collaboration technology, WebEx, and video platforms across the world, right? Anyone can join. And one also key standout as you think about what's the future, we actually shifted our flagship customer event, which is Cisco Live Melbourne, to a virtual platform within days, right? And actually, we achieved record-breaking results. We streamed the two-day event over Cisco.com and social channels, in 5 languages, and we had 11 million plus views, 225,000 views on Cisco.com, which is amazing. This is actually, we were very pleased with that, and that will be the norm for the foreseeable future in terms of these events. But we also saw a high number of requests from our customers, and they wanted help to transition to this remote working model. So again, they asked us to add more capacity to our WebEx collaboration and video conferencing solutions, as well as our AnyConnect VPN and Duo, as I mentioned. And this includes some of the largest banks in the region, the IT services companies in India that you are probably familiar with. And also, they asked us to help provide secure connectivity using our networking platforms, our Meraki networking technology for temporary healthcare facilities, for example. And also, we solved some of that bottlenecks in terms of connectivity using SD-WAN technology, and we gave away free licenses and gears as well. So that's what we quickly responded to support our customers, but also obviously our employees. Now, so Vaishali, so if you think about this, what are some of the biggest challenges you see, and how is BCG coping with this situation?
Thanks, Kartika. The crisis, in my view, has established new priorities in, of course, ensuring and delivering effective work from home, but also really accelerated existing trends in customer centricity, in automation and cloud. Now, if you look at the slide that was flashed up, it's a survey among IT executives globally and done very recently as of May. And you can see the priorities that are mentioned by peers all over the world. The x-axis shows longevity, which is what are priorities that IT executives see post-crisis, so 12 to 24 months. And the y-axis are the priorities they see during the crisis. And you can see in the top left that remote work experience, apps for productivity, remote working experience, data protection, more use of cloud are really surfacing as major priorities. Now, of course, making remote working a seamless and secure experience does require organizations to review holistic policies to guide employees, especially around security, around data access, around norms for working together in teams, and of course, ensuring that the IT infrastructure is in place. Now, while we haven't touched on this so far, I also think that the whole social aspects of dealing from work from home are equally important to consider. And Kartika, you did mention some of the things that Cisco is doing on that front as well. If we actually now move to, what the other part, what is BCG doing? We have really, as a company, been living our advice over the last many weeks. And if I just share a couple of notable highlights. The first is open communication and staying engaged. We have regular open communication through town halls. And just in terms of sharing plans and results. For example, I hold one town hall every week, which is open to every cohort to both give a sense of where we are, but also for to create engagement. And our teams on the ground are doing the same. So we have hundreds of these virtual sessions being done at the ground level. I think the second part is, I call it exploring new frontiers virtually. So just like you mentioned, Cisco Live, we recently concluded our first ever virtual worldwide partner meeting, which had all our partners globally come together in a really high fidelity experience virtually. And not only that, we're using digital and AI tools in recruiting and many other key processes within BCG as well. So with that, maybe to just pivot back to you, Kartika. Getting the infrastructure ready is something that companies absolutely need to do. What would your advice be?
Vaishali, for Cisco, we believe that having a resilient technology infrastructure to support this really new, flexible, distributed working environment is really key. Something that companies need to think about after being able to support that initial work from home surge. As you mentioned initially at the start of the pandemic, it's about making sure workers have the secure connectivity and collaboration platforms to continue work, right? But in this rush to allow employees to work from home, sometimes companies are putting on the back burner the overall infrastructure capabilities. Now, they really need to think about these technology platforms, right? And this includes networking to provide that connectivity, security, data center, which provides the applications, as well as collaboration tools, right? That will allow that permanent distributed workforce and applications to be effective. But as companies think about this, they really need to think about technology architectures or solutions that are future proof, right? And that needs to combine that quality of user experience with the consistent security policies. And I think we'll talk about a bit more about security policies later. But as they consume more cloud services, more applications, they need to have those security policies. And for us, for example, our SD-WAN technology help to remove some of the bottlenecks around VPN implementations, for example, which is a big issue for a lot of customers in the initial rush to work from home. Okay. And our cloud security technology, which we have things like Umbrella, can also help remove some of these bottlenecks by making these cloud-based services highly secure. So now let me talk a little bit about what we call the resilient distributed enterprise architecture, right? So if you think about the future where you have a distributed workers and things on the left hand side of the slide that you see, and there can be any combination of those workers, whether they are in temporary workplace, they are remote or campus or just devices, right? IoT devices. And obviously the applications and cloud services on the right hand side. You really need to deliver a secure, basically infrastructure, right? That allows them to work securely from anywhere. You mentioned about, the term loose term work from anywhere. We need to enable that. It just doesn't happen, easily. They need to be able to collaborate from any device, and for operations teams to manage the infrastructure from anywhere. You need visibility, you need automation, you need analytics, and you also need to maximize the user and application experience and the user productivity. Now, for us, Cisco, we actually consume a lot of that technology that we have, right? Because we have actually a broad portfolio that allows us to have this secure infrastructure. Let me just give you some of those examples, right? For example, we have tens and thousands of employees on virtual office setups. And basically with home wireless connectivity, that is the same like in the office. Basically, they just connect like as if they were in the office. And we have the WebEx collaboration infrastructure to allow us to collaborate. The remaining employees connect to VPN. Then what we do is we optimize our data centers and cloud platforms to basically deliver the right capacity for our applications. And then we have basically protection on our laptops and endpoints with AnyConnect M and Duo, which are collaboration portfolio and Umbrella. And then if we have problems, we have the same, we have an 800 number or online IT support as we do in the office, who can help us troubleshoot. This is the same number that we can access anywhere, right? So those are some of the operational and home policies, data policies and security policies that we need to think about as we move into the future. So now let me maybe throw the next question to Prasanna. So Prasanna, for companies that are not used to remote work, what should leaders and managers do to ensure that the employees stay productive and connected?
Firstly, Kartika, there is a need to enable the corporate IT infrastructure to work from anywhere at steady state. So this involves extending the cybersecurity platforms and practices to include the proliferating endpoints across devices, the web, network, and applications as the office frontier extends home. But at the same time, beyond security, it's also equally important to enable employees to use technology platforms for better experience, productivity, collaboration, and a sense of working together. Beyond the technology infrastructure, I would say it's also important for leaders and managers to create the right policies and practices that enable employees to have an engaging and productive remote working environment. Different aspects of that have been covered by Vaishali earlier. But if I were to summarize, I would talk about transparency and open communication of company strategy, and also the short and medium term actions, because employees at this juncture desire greater communication as a way to repose faith. It's also very important to be granular and thoughtful in formulating the right policies. For example, considering a typical day in the life of your different employee personas, whether they are your frontliners, your supervisors, or your specialists, as examples. And also building in small but clear measures such as explicit communication of team working norms so that interdisciplinary and distributed teams can work well together. In addition, to keep the company culture going and affiliation going, it's very important to proactively build virtual engagement mechanisms within teams by establishing virtual team zones and virtual social intimacy measures. And reach out to your employees more often. Explicitly reinforce your affiliation and support groups that may exist in your organization, like mentoring, coaching, and so on, to help your employees feel heard and valued. And lastly, use this time to encourage and enable upskilling and cross skilling of your employees and instill a culture of continuous learning and development. So, Kartika, the corporate network is more distributed than ever with remote working. How do you think corporations can ensure employees can work securely?
Yeah, thank you, Prasanna. So Cisco believes in a zero trust framework, right? And really, zero trust is about not trusting anything or anyone, and verifying anything and everything that tries to connect to a company's network or system. And for us, really, we leverage all the technologies that we have to ensure a zero trust network. Now, for example, for customers can use multi-factor authentication, which is dual part of a portfolio, to verify user identities before granting access to any device or application. Now, our technology also ensures that the right user is authenticated in the right system to be able to be allowed to access these corporate resources that he or she should have access to. Now, for those of you who do online banking, would be very familiar with multi-factor authentication, and almost everyone does that today. Now, you spoke about policies, Prasanna. So companies need to be able to extend their security policies really across from their campus or data center to the remote location that they are at, right? And for companies that are partnering with Cisco on their infrastructure, we're helping them to operationalize that in a simpler way to be able to extend their policies in this remote working distributed environment, right? Now, our intent-based networking architecture, which I spoke about earlier, has this integrated security across all these technology domains to allow us to be able to have the right policies, the right identity, and the right authentication to make it a zero trust network across our data center to the campus to the remote location. And collaboration technologies also need to be secure, and they need to be built with security in mind from the ground up. So that and also encrypted end to end, so that it prevents recent cases that you hear about, video bombing, basically situations. Last but not least, corporations really need to talk about to think about training their workers on the basics of common threats like phishing and ransomware, and these are usually the weakest links in this company, because that's the human element, right? And this is usually the weakest thing for any cybersecurity threat. So in Cisco, for example, our IT departments sends out fake phishing emails to really test our response to such attacks and to really remind us of the constant threats that we face today. So Prasanna, do you see this crisis changing the way people will work in the future?
Oh, absolutely, Kartika. Many firms have decided to pivot beyond the pandemic to a new normal where they thrive, not just survive, by setting bold agendas and using the opportunity to set in motion some very fundamental pivots in their operating model. As you can see this slide, most organizations are already thinking about remote working from a real estate perspective. Nationwide has, for example, already planned to close all but 4 of their main offices. Organizations like Twitter are giving employees the opportunity to work from home indefinitely. And even organizations like TCS with large staff strengths are setting themselves a challenge to get to a 25 by 25 model, which is 25% of their employees work on site by 2025, still with 100% productivity. And why are firms doing this? Because they're able to see the quantitative benefits of working from home. Remote working, of course, saves real estate and employee travel costs, as well as reduces cash flows across a whole variety of expenses. But in addition, there are also qualitative benefits. Organizations are seeing increase in productivity of between 15 and 40% by avoided commutes, over 40% reduction in absenteeism, about 15% reduction in turnover. Very importantly, access to new recruiting pools like working women and staff pools in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, for example. And of course, there's a big boost to an environmentally friendlier way of working. So, with all of these benefits, we can expect Uberized staffing models as the gig economy becomes more significant. And we are already beginning to see that in sectors such as BPM. In addition, organizations are also expected to turbocharge digital transformation initiatives, especially around automation and AI ML, cloud adoption, and agile at scale.
Thanks, Prasanna. Just to add, I do believe companies also need to consider the second order implications from work from home, particularly the social aspects. And what do I mean by that? Potentially increasing the divide between cohorts, as well as the impact on corporate culture. So just didn't want to forget that aspect. The silver lining in this crisis is that we are now accelerating a digital future that I don't think we would have ever imagined possible in this time scale. And we've been given a full-scale demonstration of how digital and technology can help transform both the business model and the operations to capture efficiency as well as just new business models as well. So with that, if I switch to Kartika, we had discussed how Cisco was really responding during the COVID-19 crisis. If we look forward, how do you think Cisco is preparing for life in the new normal?
So Vaishali, post-COVID, as you mentioned, many companies really realized that building a digital IT infrastructure that supports a resilient operating model and having a good user experience is the way to go. And having that work from home model or remote working model and being able to consume cloud services is really important. As I mentioned earlier, we are lucky that we in Cisco have invested heavily in digital capabilities, leveraging our own really portfolio. And we've always had a distributed working culture, as I mentioned. So right now, what we're doing is we're in the midst of a planning to return to office, right? Because actually we are all already at work, even at home. So we're returning to office, and this will happen in phases. And Asia is actually, few countries in Asia are at the forefront. And so we're thinking, for example, in our case, Korea and Thailand. Now, we do expect that there will still be a high number of employees that will continue to work from home even after this. But it'll be higher than it was before the pandemic, because as I mentioned earlier, we have actually quite a high percentage of employees already working from home on a regular basis. Now, we anticipate really refining and updating some of our workplace technologies with the latest latest technologies, and also the remote work technologies that our customers and our employees have, to really further support that safe and productive environment for everyone. And I think you spoke about AI ML, and we are actually investing heavily in AI ML to automate our operations and so forth, because that's a key part of our technology offering that will allow us to scale, as I mentioned earlier. Now, for example, I'll give you an example. We can use our wireless network and our collaboration technology in our offices to really ensure safe distancing, right? Also controlling the capacity in the rooms to make sure that employees are safe. and also to alert users in an automated way should there be an unfortunate event. Now, we would like to be a trusted partner to our customers in this transformation, and that starts with building that resilient IT infrastructure, and then building the other use cases that our customers might need. So this comes to the end of our session. So thank you, Vaishali, thank you, Prasanna, for the insights into best practices that companies can leverage as more of their workers come back to work, to the office, and how we can prepare for the new normal. Now, for our audience, we hope you have enjoyed this webinar and have picked up some tools that you can leverage as you prepare for the coming few months. And thank you for joining us. And really stay tuned for other webinar sessions that we will have in the next coming months. You can contact us if you need help thinking about your strategy for distributed work or remote working, and also the technology infrastructure that supports it. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Kartika. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Kartika, for inviting us. And I hope all of you enjoyed this session.